Hey everyone, welcome back to our channel. If you're new here, please subscribe. I'd really love that. If you're returning, how you doing today? Well, before we get started, get your coffee, maybe some chocolate, because you just never know with me. And also, if you haven't signed up for our newsletter yet, please do so. You can contact me or Trish. Our information is always in the description box below. Well, before I get started with this video, I got another package in the mail. So I wanted to go ahead and open it really quick so we can see what it is that we got. Oh boy. The bag ripped. Toffee crisps. Schmackaroos. Oh, okay, dog treats. Caramel wafer wafer biscuits. And this is from Amanda. She's in the UK. Matchmakers Zingy Orange. Hobnobs Sticky Toffee Pudding Flavor. Jammin' Cream Raspberry and Vanilla Flavor. Cat treats. Lamb with carrots and gravy. It's dog treat. Dog food. Dog food. Win a lot. Dog food. Whiskas, cat treats. Cat food. Cadbury Fudge. Munchies by Nestle. Oh, and she sent me more artwork. Oh, okay. And this is like her business card. So I will hold this up. So if you want to get a hold of her, because I know a lot of you have asked where you can buy her artwork. So here you go. Can you see that? I don't know if you can see that. Well, her email address is abstract, ABSTRACT, color, COLOUR, ED, pencil, PENCIL @gmail.com. So if you want to email her, okay. And her Facebook is @abstractcolor. But the color is COLOU and R, but it's color red pencil. But the R from the color is part of the color red. Do you know what I mean? So, okay, good. Thank you, Amanda. I love when she sends me care packages. This is the third one that she sent me. Package number 3 once again. She's so funny. Thank you, Amanda, so much. I love it. I love you. You're amazing. Okay, well, what I wanted to talk about today is like an extension, really, of what I talked about yesterday. Yesterday I talked about what happened with the Berlin Wall, things like that, okay? And then I said that I would talk about what happened with the Great Depression, okay? So what happened with the Great Depression? I'm not going to really like get into a lot of detail, okay? Because that would literally take an hours long video. So I'll talk about a little bit of it, all right? So the Great Depression. From 1930, okay, to 1933, 100,000 people a week lost their jobs, okay? And many families don't have a means to provide for their own needs and become dependent on state and federal government for assistance. Now, when I talk about, you know, the dependent on state and federal government, okay, you know, those ration cards that a lot of people keep talking about, oh, they're going to bring back the ration cards and things like that. These ration cards literally, where I've seen them, like they actually, they weren't paper, they were metal. And it would give you, there was like little things that would slide on them, like these little tabs that would slide on them. And I would say, okay, well, you already got this, so you can't get that now for the month. Again, you already got this, so you can't get that for the month. You already got this, so you can't get that for the month. So, you know, and then there were paper ration cards as well. Kind of like what food stamps is today, but these were actual like ration cards. And you would only get like a certain amount of meat, flour, you know, whatever was on bread. Okay, sugar, eggs. Okay. And that's what that government assistance was. Okay. Now, Francis Perkins, when FDR took office, about 5,000 banks failed. Okay. And it is said that he saved capitalism in 8 days. He appoints the first woman cabinet member, Frances Perkins, okay, as Secretary of Labor. She said, the day she witnessed the 1911 Triangle Shirtwaist Factory fire, the New Deal was born. Now, FDR initiates the first fireside chat to improve the emotional needs of the country. Education relies on property taxes, which decrease as businesses fail. Land values fall. Chicago in 1934 borrows $22 million so it can repay teacher salaries owed for 3 years of work. Okay. 1933 to 1938. The New Deal's exclusion of farm workers. As America's farm workers suffered hunger, sickness, and dislocation during the Great Depression, FDR's New Deal legislation did little to improve their welfare. In fact, in many ways, it left them worse off than they were before. At the time, Southern Democrats, with the interest in preserving Jim Crow, dominated Congress. Meanwhile, many farm workers were people of color. Consequently, unlike most urban industrial workers, farm workers were omitted from the National Industrial Recovery Act of 1933, the National Labor Relations Act and Social Security Act of 1935, and the Fair Labor Standards Act of 1938. And due to complicated state residency laws, migrant farm workers, even as American citizens, were excluded from public aid. And this situation condemned them to a life in America without a place to enact their rights. So this is still the case today. Despite their contributions as essential workers in our food supply chain, people who work on farms continue to experience the enduring consequences of the federal government's refusal to afford them real security through extended labor and social protections. The impact of the New Deal on farm workers is a reminder that policy decisions are often advanced in ways we don't recognize as inherently exclusionary, and that such policies impacts us can last far longer than the moment for which these laws were created. Okay, now, this is going beyond just the United States. You know, when we hear about the Great Depression, we think, oh, it happened here in the United States. Okay, our economy tanked, the stock market people literally lost their lives when it came to the stock market. And people took their own lives because they lost so much money. Everything gone within them, overnight, gone, just done, right? But, you know, when you think the Great Depression, you think, oh, well, that happened here and nowhere else. Nay, nay. So, because when I was, because you guys have known me for more than a year now, you guys know that I do my research before I touch base on anything. And when I was reading up and doing my research, and I came across this, because what I'm reading from right now is not an article. This is actually a summary that I wrote up myself. And the reason why is because if I were to have read every single article just for this one video, like I said, it would be hours and hours long, and I'm not going to do that for you. I'm not, to you, rather. I'm not going to do it. So, because Mexico is our neighbor, okay, just like Canada is our neighbor, I did find how it hit Mexico. In the 1930s, there was this word, it catches me every time I try and say it, because I was literally, before I made this video, I was sitting here trying to pronounce this word, because you know how I am with pronouncing words, and with my accent, it comes out weird, right? Repatriation. It's not reparation, it's repatriation. REPATRIATION. It's terrible. Repatriation of Mexicans. Okay. As unemployment rose to record levels during the Great Depression, okay. Now, people were losing, like I said, hundreds of thousands of people were losing their jobs. You had families living with families upon families upon families in one house. You had single family homes like what I live in. You had 3-4 families living in one. Okay. And like I had said in a previous video, yeah, matter of fact, I said in yesterday's video, what my father had said, by the end of this year, beginning of 2022, he feels that we're going to be seeing times that are worse than what the Great Depression was. And, you know, my dad's pretty smart, okay? He's been dealing in the stock market, you know, with finances his whole life. He's not just a retired fire chief, okay? And when he says, Gyps, jump on this, jump on that, Gyps, do this, Gyps, do that. All right, Dad, I'm moving. I'm grooving. You know what I mean? And he's like the male version of Trish. You know, when he says, no, you know, you listen. Okay? And when he had brought that to my attention, not just months ago, but he's been saying this, reiterating it. So, and he's even said, I need you to start, you know, buying silver, Gyps. I said, all right, Daddy. And even for his birthday, I bought him beautiful Morgan for his birthday. And he's, oh, God, Gypsy. He goes, that's so beautiful. Thank you. He goes, I wasn't expecting that. But even now, right now, being the like-minded people that we are, in order to make it through what my father believes could be coming, start adding silver to your preps. Okay? Trish has even said, start adding silver to your preps. Okay? Save your coins. All right? So I'll go on. So as unemployment rose to record levels during the Great Depression, Mexican migrants and Mexican Americans were simultaneously blamed for taking jobs from U.S. citizens and paradoxically for living off of public welfare. In response, immigration officials started deportation campaigns to rid the country of unauthorized migrants. While those who could not be deported because they were legal residents or citizens were pressured to leave voluntarily. How can you pressure someone to voluntarily leave? So, with the support of the Mexican government, county officials in the United States often sponsored trains to return ethnic Mexicans to the border. The number of repatriated, here's this word again, Mexicans is hard to know, but estimates range from at least 350,000 to as high as 2 million, out of which 60% are believed to have been American citizens. Most of them were children. However, only a few years after the final episode of the repatriation in 1939 to 1940. Okay, sorry about that. So, however, only a few years after the final episode of the repatriation in 1939 and 1940, U.S. officials were desperate to bring Mexican workers back to replace American citizens who had gone to fight in World War II. And I know I have my grandfather, he fought in World War II. He was in the Army, my grandfather. So I know a lot of you, you know, we all come from military families and stuff like that. So I'm sure a lot of you have, you know, either your father or your grandfather fought in World War II, okay? So the repatriation campaigns show us that the problems, for which migrants are often blamed are not solved by their deportation. This moment is a reminder of the importance of not seeing those who live among us as others, who can be welcomed or shunned based only on the need for their work. So, and this, what we're seeing like out right now, like what's going on in Texas, like what is that? The Rio Grande, the bridge, underneath the bridge. What was it? As of Sunday, that's the last time I checked. They had like 15,000 Haitians or something like that, but they're flying them all back. But this is talking about, during the Great Depression, what they were doing and how they were bringing them back because they needed all these people to work in the workforce. And how when they were deporting them, they were actually deporting Americans because, they were actually born here in this country. Why they were doing that, it just doesn't make sense. But, this was during times that I wasn't alive, you weren't alive, you know what I mean? So our grandparents were alive, maybe your parents were alive, but mine weren't. My grandparents, they lived through this. My parents, not my parents, but my grandparents were. So now a run on American banks begins immediately after the stock market crash of 1929, okay? And hundreds of thousands of customers withdrew their deposits. Now, we're starting to hear about this thing that's going to start, or maybe it has started. Trish would know more than me about this. If there's any deposits or withdrawals of more than $600 or whatever the case may be, it's going to be reported. Why? I don't know. That just doesn't make any sense. It's stupid. So, with no money to lend and loans not being paid, businesses and farmers go bankrupt and the crisis gets worse. By the end of the year, 650 banks fail, and by 1933, 11,000 of the nation's 25,000 banks closed. The Dow Jones closes at the end of the year at 248. In 1933, FDR announces a 3-day bank holiday to stop the run on banks. When the banks are reopened, nearly 1,000 banks are saved. On January 1st, 1934, the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation, or as we know it today as FDIC, is established, and since then, no one has lost insured funds. Or so they say. Now, FDIC insured bank accounts up to $100,000, right? The Bush administration, they changed those levels up to $250,000 in 2008. And that's when we had another crash. Remember that the housing crash and the stock market crash and stuff like that, okay? Now, economists, they debate if bank failures caused the Great Depression or the Great Depression causes bank failures. So something has to cause the domino effect. Something has to cause it first. Now, they can sit here and debate and go back and forth on what actually caused it initially. So, but this is just a small take on the Great Depression. And if history is going to be repeating itself once again. Can we say yes, it could happen again? Absolutely, 100%. Am I saying this is when it's going to happen? No. So don't dare sit here and say, autumn set. No. Nay, nay. This is just what I found and a summary that I wrote up. Okay? So anyway. All right, guys. That's all for this video. I love you. I'll see you in the next one. You stay safe. You stay positive. You keep prepping. And as always, fearless.